It's midlife facelift time for the BMW M4. So today, very simple. Going to run you through what's changed and what it's like to drive. So like, subscribe, but most importantly, leave your thoughts in the comments below. This is the new BMW M4 Competition, and it doesn't really look much different to the old one. That means yes, you still have that nose, but I've never really had a huge problem with it. To me, the bigger issue has always been the massive slab of metal over the rear wheels. Changes for the LCI include new headlights, laser tail lights, and you can now have the wheels in silver. Oh, and under the bonnet, you score an extra 15 kilowatts, bringing the total to 390. Bigger changes have taken place in here. There's now the dual widescreen setup that you'll see in basically every new BMW. This was one of the last cars to get it, and that's allowed the dash to sort of move around a little bit. Some of the controls have moved into the screen, which I'll get to in a second. In general, this is a really nice interior. I'd say it's the best of its segment. It's, in terms of quality, material quality and layout, I think it's better than the Alfa Giulia. It's better than the Mercedes AMG C63. And while the Audi RS4 also has a lovely interior, it's getting a little bit on the old side now. This is just a little bit fresher. However, there are some things that really bug me. The steering wheel, why is it so fat? This is a bit of a BMW thing, particularly a BMW M thing. I mean, clearly someone in the engineering department likes it, but I'd really like to just have like a Porsche style steering wheel, quite thin, quite delicate, but this, no good. Secondly, these carbon seats, they are optional, thankfully, but look, once you're in them, they're really nice, okay? Really supportive, nice and snug. However, getting in and out of them, partly thanks to this carbon bit between your legs, you're just constantly catching your legs on them, bruising your legs on them. I just don't see why it's there. That, and you lose the heating and ventilation functions, so I'd stick with the regular seats. Lastly, as I said, moving to iDrive 8.5 in general is fine. Bigger screen, wireless smartphone mirroring, lots of apps, all that sort of stuff, that's great. But the climate control functions are now in the screen. There is a one-tap function for the fan, and you can adjust the temperature at all times, so it's not too bad, but still, what was wrong with the button? Another big plus for the M4 is the rear seats, and I don't mean rear seats like a 911, I mean proper usable rear seats. I'm 180 centimeters tall. Yeah, I'm a bit short on headroom, but legroom's okay. I'd be perfectly happy back here for short distances. There's also plenty of room for the kids' seats, though another point on the carbon buckets, given they've got big holes in the back of them, it's a perfect opportunity for the kids to kick in the kidneys. Now what I will show you is the M1 and M2 functions and how to set them up. So on the steering wheel we've got M1 and M2, these little red toggles. So they allow you to call up a favoured combination of settings at the touch of a button. So it's all on the screen here. There's a default function when you start the car, which is everything basically at softest mode. Engine inefficient, chassis, steering, brake, comfort, four-wheel drive, just normal. But we'll go into M1. This is how I would set it up. So for M1, I guess I would have probably sport for the engine. So the mid setting. Again, leave it in drive. So there's 6 settings for the transmission. 3 in drive, 3 in sport or manual, which is basically shift speed. So I'll have that in D3, which is normal drive, but it's sportiest setting. Maybe I'll change that later. Chassis, sport rather than sport plus, because that will probably get a bit firm. Steering and comfort, I will just leave. I'll have comfort all the time because sport and sport plus just add weight. That just gives more effort to the steering. I don't want more effort. I just want to be able to steer the car as easily as possible. Brake in comfort, that's fine, and DSC on. M2, we'll go Sport Plus for the engine. S3, I'm going to actually back that up to S2 because I find that in these cars, S3 actually is so aggressive in its shift setting that it will upset the car on shifts. Chassis, let's put that in Sport. Oh, let's put it in Sport Plus. Why not? Steering again, comfort for reasons I said. Brake, we can make Sport. It just changes the feel a little bit. I don't know if you really notice it. Now this is where it gets interesting. So DSC, we've got on, MDM or off. So this is just going to be set up for the road today. So we'll leave it in MDM. But if I was on a track and you want to go off, that then gives you extra settings. You can have four-wheel drive sport, which gives it a greater rear bias, almost too much of a rear bias, but anyway. And then if we go two-wheel drive, we then have M traction control, which allows us to choose from 10 different settings for the traction control, all the way from like super conservative all the way to completely off. We also have M sound, which is just louder exhaust. So obviously we're on the road today, so I'll wind that back to just MDM. And now let's see what it feels like on the road. Okay, so I'll do this bit by bit, starting off very slow, and then we can ramp up the aggression as we go. But I'll start off with what the M4 is like as a daily driver. The G82 M4, so all these cars are G series cars, G80 M3, G81 M3 Touring, G82 M4 and G83 M4 Convertible, I think they're the codes. But this car changed quite a lot over the previous F series cars, which were a big change over the E series cars. Obviously a bigger car, but we've got all-wheel drive now. We've got a torque converter auto versus a dual clutch. And all those changes make this a nicer car to drive every day. It's relatively quiet, the ride's relatively compliant for a car sort of with this performance potential. The torque converter is much smoother than the previous dual clutch in sort of stop-start traffic. You can get the occasional sort of lurch, but in general, it's much better behaved. And the engine, heaps of torque, just sort of cruises away unobtrusively in the background. And some people might not want that in their M cars, but for a lot of people that do drive this every day and don't want compromise, well, it works. Obviously the all-wheel drive as well is a big benefit, not so much here in Australia, but in the US, in the Europe, where there might be snow, wet roads, very cold temperatures. Having the security of all-wheel drive, because this is a competition, it can be a real benefit. It makes, again, BMW want to sell these cars to as many people as possible. So the wider the use case you can make, the more they'll sell. And I think that's playing out. But if you just want one of these to just cruise around in, you can just buy a 420i or a 440i. This is all about M. So let's just hit M1 and spice this thing up a little bit. So as we saw earlier, now I've got sport suspension, sport engine, gearbox still in drive but a sportier setting. Lift the pace a little bit. Engine response is much better. Inefficient. It's really kind of dull. It feels quite laggy. It feels quite unresponsive. You've really got to give it a kick to get it to do anything. Now you can hear as I'm braking firmly, it's grabbing lower gears for me and it's keeping the engine right in the meat of the torque band, to borrow one of Tony Gregg's phrases for all you cricket fans out there. This thing is, yep, this is a proper M car. Oh man. So this is just in sport, but I'm sort of leaving the car to its own devices. But, oh, what a beast. Let's give you a bit more detail than just what a beast. So the engine now feels really responsive. Even on these light throttle openings, it's keeping the revs high. It's not changing up on me because it's recognised that I'm on a good road and I want to have a bit of a crack. The steering remaining in comfort. I don't know why you'd want to go to sport steering in one of these, or especially Sport Plus. I mean, it's a preference thing, so why not have the option, I suppose? But there's nice weighting, like it's not overly light in comfort mode. Brakes feel good, suspension's got a good compromise now of a little bit more control, but still soaking up all the bumps. And this is just, I mean, I'm just cruising along at the moment, but even so, this is, it's lucky I'm on a 100 km/h road, because this thing just builds pace. so rapidly now. Some people might, and I'm one of them, like I love an E92, I love an E46. The different cars in character, you'd certainly be working way harder to have anything like this sort of pace in one of those cars. And that would be more involving, that would be more fun. But this car has its own appeal out of that hairpin, total traction. You don't have to worry about wheel spin, you don't have to worry about cams in the road or anything like that. Just goes. Right, so now let's turn the wick right up. We've got to hit M2 twice now because we've got it in MDM stability control mode, just to loosen things up a little bit while keeping a safety net. And instantly you can hear the change of exhaust note. It becomes more aggressive, becomes louder. You get all the pops and gurgles on the overrun now. And the throttle response, while it wasn't lagging before, now just the slightest little brush on the throttle gives you more power. There's not actually more power. As I mentioned at the start of the video, one of the changes for the facelifted G82 is a lift in power from 375 kilowatts to 390. Like on a percentage level, that's tiny. So I'm not going to tell you that suddenly I could feel those extra 15 kilowatts. It was stupidly fast before, and it is now still properly stupidly fast. So I've got the chassis in Sport Plus, and even though I'm on quite a bumpy road, it's good, really good. Go for the Magpie. Just the acceleration. And one change that you get with going to Sport Plus, or at least selecting four-wheel drive Sport, is suddenly you do have to worry about wheel spin and oversteer. Not so much, you know, on a road like this where I'm not pushing that hard, but in the wet, coming out of tight corners, and especially on a track, four-wheel drive Sport gives it a lot of rear bias and will overwhelm the rear tires. So the combination of that and MDM stability control means you've got to be a little bit awake. The car will still back you. The car will still, you know, it's not going to misbehave overtly, but all of a sudden you can steer the rear with the throttle. That makes it a hell of a lot of fun. Yes, this has gone four-wheel drive, but there's, apart from weight, and there is a fair bit of weight, this car is near 1700, probably nudging 1800 with me on board. There's not a lot of downsides because regular four-wheel drive, you've got all the traction. Four-wheel drive Sport, you've got a really entertaining car. You've got traction, but still power oversteer if you want it. And then if you really want to just haze the tires off, you can stick it in two-wheel drive. And these cars still do an amazing job of being the ultimate drift machines. Have these latest cars lost something? And yeah, they have, because this is a very tight, twisty road, and I've got to be aware of the car's size. And the speed is such now that, I mean, really I'm just kind of cruising, but going as fast as a speed limit will allow, even on a 100k an hour road. You don't even have to brake for most of these corners because there's so much grip. But they're not as shuckable, they're not as delicate. But holy moly, they're fast. And, you know, you can forgive a lot of sins for being fast. it is still a unbelievably good performance car. It's controlled and involving and exciting. I read many years ago now, I think it was a letter in a magazine or something, about you have to think about the M cars also almost sort of going up a number. So an M3 is now an M5, an M5 is an M7, etc., etc. And though that was a letter from maybe a decade or so ago, it's even more relevant now. Is this more of an M6 than an M4? It probably is. A really, really fast Grand Tourer that can also work on track more than your typical M3, which is more of a lightweight involving coupe. And not even the M2 does that now. 1M was, I guess, the last car that really fulfilled that brief. And obviously the new M5 being 2.5 tons, being plug-in hybrid, is more of an Autobahn M7 kind of deal. But that doesn't necessarily detract from their appeal. It'll appeal to a different buyer. Someone who's come out of an E46 or something may have to buy, well, something different. But if you distill it down to, well, what Addicted to Sliding is all about, really, is this an enjoyable car to drive? Does it put a smile on my face? Can I drive it as hard as I want without it cracking it? The answer is absolutely yes. And that means it's all right in my book. There you go, you just steer it with the throttle. It's funny, isn't it? All the sort of teeth gnashing, I guess. And the proof will be when we drive the new M5, because there's been plenty of teeth gnashing about that. The 2.5 tons, plug-in hybrid, etc., etc. But on the balance of probability, you'd have to say it's likely to be a pretty awesome performance car, because it was the same when this came out. Aside from the looks, it was, oh, it's all-wheel drive now. It's torque converter auto. It's just, it's become an RS4. It's not a real M car, but I don't know. Let me know if you've driven one of these and you didn't like it. Let me know and let me know why, but this is an awesome bit of kit. So on that note, see you next time. Thanks for watching.